I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another office hour stream. Hopefully you guys are doing well, had a good week, ready for another chat here, as always. So ready for the weekend. Again, this is Saturday night's my weekend, begins my weekend, so I am ready. Ready to relax, do some vegging, enjoy myself, but first, gonna hang out with you guys. So let's see here, who's with us today? I think I had the chat open from a while ago. Ghost Planet Max Inc., of course, always first. Eldritch Fan, good to see you. Eldritch Fan, you say that looks like, yeah, so I ordered the Supernatural Encounters just in time. It's gone out of print or limited availability on Amazon. Yeah, we thought it was going to be the case, right? So I got all 3 volumes here, and I haven't even really got a chance to look at it, to be honest, and really figure out exactly what it is. Let me see if I can get this mic out of the way there. There we go. It's a little better. Yeah, so this is kind of, think of it as like the Silmarillion of Star Wars, but all 3 volumes there. Big books too. I haven't really got a chance to look through them yet, but I got them because I didn't know how long they'd be available. Disney probably is trying to take them down now or whatever. Or you say they're already taken down. So yeah, all 3 volumes. Pretty excited to look through them. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. Put these away here. But I do want to thank you guys for letting me know about that, because it was kind of like what was the last book? The Heart of the Jedi, I think it was called. I picked that up from Amazon before they quashed that, which is good. I'm glad I got that as well. So yeah, these are nice to have. So thank you guys for letting me know about that. I appreciate that. Let's see. Samuel Proctor, going to have, well, tell your mother happy birthday, Samuel. Hope you guys are having a good time. Studio Super, great to see you there. Let's see. Andre Hernandez, always great to see you. Star Wars Battlefront Collection. I mean, I know Star Wars Battlefront. I don't... Collection of video games or books or what? My dear sweet sound engraver, who of course it's her birthday, guys. It's my dear sweet bride, sound engraver, her birthday. So yeah, I saw that she recognized Chrono Trigger. I told you Chrono Trigger would be there for your birthday. So it's going on in the back. It's one of her favorite games. So it is my dear sweet wife's birthday. You can wish her a happy birthday, and if you want to wish her happy birthday personally, you can go to her stream tomorrow night, which probably be 5:45-ish, 6 maybe, something like that. She'll let us know there in the chat. But yep, giving her a good birthday. Nathaniel Lozball, welcome. Darth Enigma, Leia Plus Size, welcome everyone. I see Guy Art 96. It's Owen Lister. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to trigger you when I'm saying Guy Art. I know that you changed your name, Owen Lister, so that I would have to say Guyvart 96, and you could be like, "Ooh, Prof, have you ever heard of Guyver?" But good to know you're there. Good to know you're still with us there, Owen. So thank you for letting me know that. Len Green, Stress Levels, everybody's here. Great to see everybody. AL, Spidey Rules. Wonderful to see you all. Let's see if I've missed anything in the chat here. Have I read Shadows of the Empire? You know, haven't read it all the way through yet because I wanted to play the game first. I heard that, and I've got the game. I've got the omnibus of comics, the Dark Horse omnibus, and then I've got the novel. And so I want to play the game first, and then I think read the novel and then read the comics, because how it is, as I understand it, each you can do those in any order you want, but they're going to give you different angles or different perspectives on the story. So I think the game is from what's his name's Dash Rendar's perspective. I think the comics are from Leia's perspective, I think. Maybe I got that a little wrong. But no, I haven't done that yet. I've got them. So it's I've got my you can't see it on the screen right here, but I got my CRTV right here. It's a VHS DVD combo. Sweet. And I got my N64 right above it here. So I just need to, have the time to sit down and play through that, because I've tried the different ports and whatnot, and unless you're playing like unless you have the money to actually HD port an old system, or you're playing like some classic games on a Switch or something like that, or with my retro box back there or something, none of the I hate none of the little adapters really work well to flat screen TVs, so I you just got to have a good CRTV on hand, and this one's a sweet one, and I'm waiting for it to get a chance to really just play that through. But thank you. Yeah, Michael Scambati, welcome to you. You said, hi, share some of the favorite comic book movie shows, Burton films, Del Toro's, Hellboy films, Daredevil. By the way, I joined your Facebook. Facebook Catholic. The Catholic. Oh yeah, I still do have a Facebook for the Catholic channel, don't I? Yeah, cool. And those are some of my favorites as well. Great to see you there. Yes, thank you. It is Happy St. Patrick's Day. Good old St. Patrick. And yes, I am Catholic, so did celebrate today. Tuesday is St. Joseph's Day, so we got an important little season, of course, coming into Palm Sunday and the Easter season. Yeah, there's a Heart of the Jedi PDF online, Tom Spiegel, where a lot of people, I think we're reading it for a while before then even, but now we've got the nice, or some of us who were able to grab that. And it became like a bestseller on Amazon, like overnight too. And of course Disney, not thinking, maybe we could get in on that and license that and pay the right people and sell that ourselves. No, just end that. Our continuity. Good old classic Disney move. So that is, I think that's the catch up there. I was telling the sound engraver, I have all the things in mind to talk about tonight, but I haven't really sat down and outlined them in my head yet. So we'll see how this goes. I was thinking a lot about, the age-old question, should you separate the art from the artist? And there are a lot of different scenarios that comes into. And I was thinking about the question, and I'll tell you what brought it up. But, a lot of people, when this question comes up, they have this knee-jerk answer to it, and they usually go to one extreme or the other, and their answer to the question usually tells you a lot about them. You've got some people like, I can separate art from artist. I'm not going to let, somebody's comments they made or whatever, stop me from enjoying the art. Okay. And it's just a silly thing to say across the board, because, you really need to go into the specifics of the question. I mean, are we saying, hey, are you not going to watch a show just because one of the actors made some stupid comments? Well, that's one thing, right? Whatever. But is the writer really into something? And some people will. They will try to be extreme. No, I will always separate. It's very important. You always should separate the art from the artist. Like, okay, well, I want you to go hang some of Hitler's paintings in your home. Shut up. Put your money where your mouth is. Do it. And some people would actually say, well, I would. If they were good paintings and I liked them, then I would, because some people are just, when they're that far into, they can always separate it. These are moral relativists, they don't, because see, the thing about art, and I mean art in a big picture, whether you're talking about literature, movies, television shows, whatever, comics, is that art is an expression, and it should be an expression of the people that created it, person that created it, if it's just a writer, or the people that created it and whatnot. And it's an expression of their souls. It's an expression of their ideas. It's an expression of their values. And if you get something like a film where you've got a lot of different people kind of having the input, and then if it's not necessarily the director but just maybe one of the producers or one of the actors or whatever, okay, whatever, maybe you can kind of overlook that kind of thing. But when it's a straight up writer of something, then I think the question really needs to be addressed, and there's been plenty of times where I've just said, look, I can't do this. I can't support this person or this art form because of this person that's behind it or whatever. Eldritch fan, thank you so much for the super chat there. Said, no, you can't, and to try would be an insult to both. Hey, that's a very good, succinct way of putting it. Yeah. And I like the way you come at the question there. Like, no, you can't separate the two, because I'm assuming that avoiding or abstaining from a piece of art, I'm assuming that, right? If you didn't like the artist, And I guess maybe I should stop I just kind of wanted to come into the topic broadly. But, it's in the news a lot lately, and I've been following, what's going on with the Ripperverse, because I think it's fascinating. I really do. And I think that, long before Eric July ever created the Ripperverse, like I said before, he's never really been one of the channels that I followed on my own. Just not because of anything, bad about anything. He just never, I don't have that time to watch a lot of YouTube channels, and for whatever reason, his channel never really fell into the little circle of ones that I would watch. But a lot of people would tell me, and again, this predates the actual creation of his Ripperverse or his comic books or anything. A lot of people would tell me that he, along with myself, are some of the channels that abstained from going off and reviewing all these things. So I know he kind of falls in with a lot of those channels a lot that do, constantly, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about that's going on Disney, we got to do a review of this or whatever. But he himself stopped doing that. And I always respected him for that. If I understand that, if that's, my understanding is correct there, that he, wouldn't go in and review every little thing, and he was just talking about the problems with the industry and stuff like that, but wouldn't go in and try to promote everything. So I had sort of a general respect for him, just on that alone. And he made choices with his channel, like, again, even way back then, that I wouldn't have necessarily made, but the whole monetize my haters thing and stuff like that. But he did it, and his channel was huge, and I always kind of admired that about him. Hey, it's good. You really built something great there, and that's wonderful. Even though I wasn't really necessarily one of his fans or subscribers or anything. But then he created these comics, and the idea is great, cool. Somebody who thinks the way we do, about a lot of these industries and wokeness, in the comics and stuff like that, is creating these books and everything. That's great. And of course, it was very, very popular, very, successful. I didn't read Isom, when it came out. I didn't buy it or anything. By now, I've read Isom just because so many different channels have basically done turn page by turn page, reviews. So yeah, I can say I've read Isom. I did read and do a review of Alpha Core, as you guys saw. But a lot has been said about the Saska sisters, him bringing them on, and them being behind, not just, and they're not just brought on as the writers of Yaira, they're brought on as the editors of his books. I mean, I think he calls them the keepers of the lore. They're they're the ones that are behind everything, are really kind of the head. I mean, Mike Barron is writing a book for him, and Mike Barron talks about them as his editors. These are my editors. They tell me what to do here and there and this and that. So it's not just a matter of these are the writers of one comic book. The Saska sisters are now ingrained into the Ripperverse, to the fabric of the entire Ripperverse, all of the books that you're going to read, all of the fiction that you're going to get there. And I started hearing things about them. I didn't really follow them because I don't give a crap about anything that comes out of Marvel, but apparently that's where, he had found them and whatnot. But then you start hearing things about them, and some of the things are so outlandish, you almost think, okay, clearly that's, people are just kind of being some, creating some propaganda or whatever. But then you find out, nope, nope, that's actually real. And I, so I decided to do a bit of a deep dive because, I made no bones about how much I absolutely hated Alpha Core. And to be honest, I still, and I'm only speaking as a reader, as my one individual reader, comic reader. I was interested because Chuck Dixon was the writer. I think Chuck Dixon's awesome. I still, to this moment, feel so betrayed by Alpha Core. And again, if you loved it, great, you loved it. I'm not trying to convince anybody to go against it or for it. I'm just talking about my experience with it as a Chuck Dixon fan. What I was betrayed by was the fact that this is the thing that hit me most, and I still hate so much about it, is that these are absolutely analogs. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. People tried to say when I did that interview, I didn't see it like that. Well, I'm sorry you're dense, but that's what they are. I mean, that is like you can choose to read it and not think about them like that. That's fine. But they are 100% marketed as analogs to Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, the DC Trinity. I mean, his name is Brian Solari or whatever, this name of solar powered Superman. There's the quiet brooding brawler. There's the woman with the lasso. I mean, open your freaking eyes. This is an analog of the DC Trinity. And Chuck Dixon, even though he's never really, he's mostly known for Batman, he's done a lot of great things, but he's not necessarily synonymous with great Superman stories. But I still thought of him always as somebody who truly understood these archetypes, who really understood these characters. And for him to helm a book that was about deconstructing these archetypes, because that's 100% what it is. That's just an objective truth. You can't even argue with me about that. Maybe you like it, and that's fine, but it's a deconstruct. It's, hey, let's take these characters, clearly analogs of these characters, and there's nothing wrong with having analogs of characters, right? I mean, that's okay. That's what drew me to the book. But if you got analogs of these characters, you do one of two things with them. You try to make your own stories with these characters that you don't own the copyrights of, and that's what I was thinking I was going to get. Or the other thing you do is you deconstruct these characters. You'd say, what can I do with these characters that subverts expectations, of what these characters, would do in the mainstream or the continuity or the public consciousness and so forth. And that's what that book did. It was, a deconstruction from top to bottom. And I utterly hate it because I love these characters and I love the archetypes that they embody and what they do for our culture. And I thought the last stinking thing the universe needs is another crappy story that's going to be out here trying to rip them down and make them bullies, make them tyrants. Which is exactly what Alpha Core did. Alpha Core is a bunch of bullies. It's a story about this super police force who are a bunch of bullies, tyrant bullies. Eric July had said in one of his videos that he was trying to talk about how diverse he's made Ripperverse with all the different characters and the different books, and if you don't like this book, then maybe you'll like this book. And I kind of like that about the Ripperverse at first, because I applauded him, and I still do applaud him for the motivation. Let's have a company that's not just to create. I mean, the indie comic books are great, right? I love them. I review them all. I try to literarily analyze them. But they're going to vary in quality, and so I just follow the ones that I know that are really good. But one creator can only put out so many books at a time. So you really have it slow going to get any kind of shared universe or anything that could kind of compete with the Marvel universe or a DC universe. And the way Ripper was talking about his books, it kind of seemed like he was, really kind of going at it the closest we could get to really compete with something like that. As it is right now, I think Graham Nolan's Compass Comics is the closest we really have to competing with that, because the books are coming out very regularly and they're all somewhat interconnected. They are in the same universe, so I kind of like that. So, just heads up to I almost said shout out. But no, I'm not going to say that. But no, Compass Comics. I just got Ghosts of Matacumbe Key, which I'm very excited about digging into. I hadn't read the Chinu or the Aliens at the Alamo yet, so I ordered those. They should be here in a couple days. I am going to read those first because I think this book starts to bring it all together, and I would like to have read those. So that's an example of something, and I thought that the Ripperverse was going to be that, and I think he's still aiming for that. He is putting out books pretty quickly, and I still do. I admire that aspect. But he said that the different comics and different things to appeal to different people. And he said that, one of his videos, he said something to the effect of, the irony's not lost on me being an ANCAP and writing a police force or creating a police force. And I thought, there's no irony there whatsoever, because even though Chuck Dixon wrote it, he created Alpha Core. And I think you created Alpha Core exactly as I would expect an anarcho-capitalist to create a police force or to write a police force. They're tyrants, they're bullies, they abuse their power, they're jerks to everybody. This is how the stereotypical anarcho-capitalist sees police officers. So there's no diversity of characters there. No, you wrote them exactly from your worldview, you know. And I was thinking about the other characters. Isom is kind of like this, and it really this all kind of clinked together when he was talking about his ideas for Yaira, you know, which no one's read yet because the book is still coming out. But he said he wanted Yaira to be this wild card in his universe, somebody who played by her own rules, who had her own interests, you know, and was going about kind of her own agenda, was a super powerful person, kind of the wild card, you know, had her own agenda, wasn't going to play by necessarily the law, you know, was kind of amoral, wasn't really, you know, there to be a hero, but wasn't really there to be a villain either. And he was talking about how he really wanted somebody like that in his universe to make it kind of, you know, to fill out the diversity of it. And I thought, every character you've written is exactly what you just said. Whether it's Isom or the Alpha Core, they're all wild cards. They're all interested in their own self, you know, agendas. None of them are beholden to any, you know, greater sense of morality. They're all, you know, as I said, I talked to Sound Engraver about it. I even mentioned it on live stream the other night, but I'm trying to find a character in the Ripperverse that I can enjoy spending time with, because all I keep seeing, it just seems like this universe of jerks being jerks to each other. And some people like that. But oh my gosh, if there's ever been a fictional universe that cried out for an aspirational hero, it would be the Ripperverse. Now, maybe, you know, the Gooding character hasn't come out yet. I don't know much about that character. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they're going to kind of push Gooding as an aspirational character. Mike Barron's writing it, so you know, again, you've got a seasoned writer. But again, since Alpha Core turned out the way it did, that's no guarantee that it's going to be great. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that or expect from that. Even if Gooding was like the, you know, the aspirational hero of the Ripperverse, would that be enough? And, you know, not every universe needs to have an aspirational hero as the linchpin. Of course not. I mean, Superman is the linchpin of the DC universe. As Superman goes, so goes the DC universe. But, you know, it can be something more like Marvel, where you've got a Captain America who's a very aspirational hero. You've got others too, but a very aspirational hero who does serve as hey, this is the standard, guys. This is the absolute morality. This is, make sure that this is the standard to strive, you know, for which to strive. And the whole universe isn't built around him necessarily. You know, Marvel Cinematic or Marvel Comic Universe, whatever, is far more linked to the cathartic motivational, but he's there, you know, a lot. And so I'm wondering, so is Gooding going to be at least like that? Or is he going to kind of be like people say, when I say that One Punch Man didn't really appeal to me because there's like zero aspirational heroism. And everybody's like, what about Mooman Rider? What about him? He's almost laughed at by the very show. I mean, he's got these like a couple of little sweet moments, and then that's it. Like, he's completely ineffective and has zero influence on the goings on around him in that world. At least in the animated series. Maybe that changes with the manga or whatever. I don't know, but or the manga, sorry. But you know, that's not really enough. You know, so all of these characters seem to be the same. So I'm looking for reasons to dig into this more, because again, I like the fact that the Ripperverse channel was so big, kind of organically from this kind of thing. But that's kind of a rookie move when it comes to writing. When all of your characters kind of come out the same, this is something that as a writer you need to start to understand about yourself early on in your writing process. Every writer has a certain cast of characters in their head. You know, you've got, you know, your own little cast of archetypes. Who was it? Gore Vidal, I think, had a great quote about that. You know, that Shakespeare perhaps had the biggest cast of characters, you know, but everybody has, you know, 4 or 5, maybe up to 10 if you're lucky, kind of a cast of characters that tend to show up over and over in the different characters that you write. So, you know, this one type of person keeps showing up in your stories or whatever. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this sort of quintessential anarcho-capitalist nobody mess with me. I want my respect. You shut your mouth. I do what I want kind of character. And that's very uninteresting to me. It's very off-putting to me as a reader myself, just speaking as myself. Some people might love that, but, so I'm looking for ways to get into this because, it's so big and these people are involved, but then the Soska sisters are attached. And I have to say, when I looked into it, and I made sure I looked into it, and I'm not going to go into this, isn't going to be a stream that tears down the Soska sisters, because I have nothing against these ladies personally. Wish them all the best. But a lot of things were going on or being said about them. I looked into it and found out that was pretty much correct. A lot of it was correct. And it came down to, for me, to the point where I can't support their work. Again, nothing against them personally, wish them all the best, but I can't support their work. I can't put money into their values, into their ideas, into their expressions. I don't want to be a part of making that more plenteous in the world. And because they have now been so irrevocably ingrained into the very fabric of the Ripperverse, I can't really support the Ripperverse at all. That was a shocking move. When I first heard that they were going to write Yaira, okay, that's one thing. But to straight up have them be the editors-in-chief or keepers of the lore, whatever they're called, of every single story. Yeah, I can't support this. And it's kind of a bummer because I was hoping, I like Mike Barron, I like Chuck Dixon, but to kind of lay that on top of everything else, all the other issues that I saw with the universe, I can't do it. Got to pass. Let me take a break here and get to some of the super chats that I've been missing because I don't want you to think that I've forgotten about you. I do appreciate you. Let's see. I missed these. Oh, all right. I got the Eldritch fan one. Yeah. Studio Super, thank you very much. 999 said, art is a lot like life in terms of the people who create it. The choices you make and the actions that follow are a reflection of who you really are. Let me read that again to make sure I'm really getting that. Art is a lot like life in terms of the people who create it. The choices you make and the actions that you follow are a reflection of who you really are. I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around that right. The choices you make in art are a reflection of who you really are. Yeah. Now you need to take art on its own terms, any kind of artistic expression on its own terms. For example, as you other writers in the chat, as you guys know, if anybody ever reads your stories, especially when you're growing up, everybody thinks that you are all your main characters, so if you write about this character with this problem, they're like, are you okay? Like, yeah, it's a fictional character, so it doesn't necessarily mean just because you write about this one thing means this thing is an issue in your life. But you can look at a writer's themes. You can look at things that continuously prop up in their work, or artist, or filmmaker, or whatever. You can look at those things, and yeah, it's very telling. I think Neil Gaiman has said, I think it was him, said basically to be a writer is to really just lay yourself bare, because your work will reveal so many things about the inner workings of your mind and stuff like that you didn't mean to reveal, and again, not in sort of a, on the surface way, but like I said, the themes pop up and stuff like that and the choices and everything and what your work glorifies, like I don't, all of us in the chat who are people of faith of some degree or whatever, I mentioned I'm Catholic. There are some things that I'm not going to want to watch or whatever, or listen to or read, but I'm not such a stickler like, oh, I'm not going to read this story about a serial killer because that's bad. Well, no, does the story itself glorify serial killing? Does the story kind of revel in nihilism? Well, yeah, then I'm not going to want it then, but if it's a good versus evil story, that's why I love a lot of great monster stories. I just got it right here. Actually, I just picked up Fright Night the other day. Got a really cool deal on Steelbook of Fright Night. Wonderful. And this is the classic, the 80s Fright Night, Chris Sarandon. Great. It's a vampire story, and bad things happen to people in this story, but it's ultimately a story about good versus evil. It's a wonderful film. Love it. so yeah, art is it reflects the choices, but I do think you have to take it on and I think you would agree with me, Studio Super, is that you have to take it on its own terms, each expression when you're going to judge it like that for yourself. When I say judge art, I'm only speaking, the whole point of this chat is 100% up to the individual. Only you can decide whether or not you want to separate art from the artist. Only you can decide whether or not this piece of art is something that you want to support. I do think, when it comes to the Ripperverse, for example, though, I don't have any individual in mind, so I'm not thinking, but I think that there's been such a wave of support for the channel and him himself, and then part of that support has been this narrative of, hey, let's push back against the mainstream industry. Let's push back against that. Let's create this, parallel economy and so forth, that a lot of people never stopped to look at the quality of the content that's being produced. And a lot of people who just put their channels and put their names behind it from the get-go, no, we support this, you should support this, now are kind of backpedaling a little bit, are saying, well, hey, look, I never said it was going to be good, or I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. Look, if you're going to continue to put your name, your platform, if you're going to continue to promote something, then you're tacitly saying, I like this, or you're tacitly saying it's good. So, for example, people who were, joining in on the promotion of ISOM 1, well, no one knew what ISOM 1 was going to be like, okay? But as soon as ISOM 1 comes out, and then you throw your platform again behind ISOM 2, whether you like it or not, you're saying, hey, I approve, and I think ISOM 1 is of quality enough for me to promote it again, for part 2 or whatever. So you can't have it both ways. A lot of people are trying to do that, especially like after the trailer for Ira came out, they're trying to backpedal about all this kind of stuff. Studio 96 Films, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. You said, instead of subverting our expectations, writers should live up to them. Amen. There's this, we saw this in Hollywood a lot. David Goyer. David Goyer is one person who definitely said this, and it was so infuriating when he said this too. He said, the writer's job isn't to give people what they want. It's to give people what they don't know they want. That, you smug SOB, you need to lose your job immediately. No one should ever read another story you pen for saying that. That is just the most smug, short-sighted, ignorant thing anybody can say. Tom Brevoort has that kind of mentality too, and it's horrible. People know what they want. Now, yeah, they're not writers. You're the writer, so you're going to tell the story in ways that they maybe didn't think of sometimes and whatnot. But don't neglect your audience. They know what their expectations are real, and they're for a reason. And unless you want to just be a Rian Johnson all the time, then take it seriously. Take the archetypes seriously. Know archetypes before you write them. Michael Scumbody, thank you so much for the super chat there. Said, I'm happy to pay you if you could help understand the Bible, but putting in ways. Oh yeah, Michael, you're the other guy who was commenting me. Yeah, I mean, I can't do that, Michael. I don't have the time to write something up like that. But I have been meaning to give you some recommendations, to give you some book titles and whatnot. So I will get back to you. I meant to do it the other day, but I will do that. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, archetypes are archetypes, right? So in a lot of ways, the same archetypes that we see in religion are at play, and are the same archetypes we see in our popular fiction are at play in religion. In fact, that's where they got their start, So yeah, I need to remember to get back to you. Thank you for the reminder there, though. Appreciate that. Studio Super, thank you very much for the super chat. Said, I noticed that the superhero universe, that don't have an aspiration of those universes that don't have aspirational archetypes, don't stick around in public consciousness the way the big two have. It's true. It's true. Because I think I wasn't a big Image guy back in the 90s, but Image was kind of that. Image was sort of, devoid of it was very gritty. It was very, let's tear down all these norms and everything. And I mean, that's what made it so big when Alan Moore came and took the character Supreme and remade him into a true iconic Superman analog, because when he first was created, he was just a deconstruction of Superman. And I don't know if Alan Moore's Supreme was like an apology for Killing Joke or something like that. I don't know why he did it, but man, I'm glad he did, because he wrote some of the best Superman stories out there exist under that Supreme run when he turned around and made Supreme a real iconic Superman. But you're right, I don't know of any that that really last, because archetypically what you have in the Ripperverse so far, again, I don't know about Gooding because we don't know about him yet, but archetypically you just have a bunch of anti-heroes. I was really thinking about like where to place them archetype wise, and they're all anti-heroes because they are all, as he described Ira, they're amoral. They might have some personal, they wouldn't do this because they think that's bad or whatnot, but they're all, more than willing to cross the lines of law and order. They're all more than willing to act selfishly. Oh, you disrespected me, I got to take you out now or something. I mean, they're all more than willing to do that. Even Alpha Corps, who actually are working for law enforcement, they don't abide by any rules or whatever. They do what they want. They're bullies. They're tyrants. So that's an anti-hero. And anti-heroes can be great. They're fun. We need anti-heroes. Don't get me wrong. Anti-heroes are necessary, but you can't have a universe full of anti-heroes. That's the appeal of that's gonna fall apart very fast. So good point there. Make sure that I'm not missing anything. Alec Purdue, hey, good to see you, Alec Purdue. I know you've been busy and whatnot, but good to see you there. You said I'm late. Who are the Saska sisters? Oh boy, you got a rabbit hole to fall down. In a nutshell, and again, I'm not going to go through all the individual accusations for them here, because I don't. I'm not name calling. I have nothing against these two women. I wish them all the best, like I said. But they're two twin sisters who. They've got a history, and it's not just a history. I thought it was like these are things they did way back in their past, and you can't hold people, you can't hold people's work now for things that they may have done way back when. But no, this is stuff that they, even currently still hold these beliefs, or even very recently did. I mean, post-pandemic and everything. Their biggest known, the reason why they came on the scene for Ripperverse was because they had written a Black Widow comic that Eric July liked a lot. But they've done all these sort of very questionable films and very questionable occult practices and just some weird stuff. I don't want to go. There's more to it than that, because if it was just some weird stuff, then I wouldn't sit here and say I can't support them. It's more to it than that. I just don't want to make this channel a let's sling some mud at the Saska sister stream, because that's not what it's about. But thank you for asking. Yeah, you can easily look it up. Alec Purdue, put that in YouTube and you will get those hits. R. Rodriguez for the $5. Thank you so much. Said, what do you think about reimaginings? Is there value in reconfiguring elements of an established story to tell a new one with the old one's pieces? Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, so like I said, if you're, and I think if I understand what you're saying here, in the context of an analog. So if you got, let's say you wrote an analog story of the Avengers or the Justice League or whatever, and you wanted to kind of reimagine some heroes in this way or that way. Yeah. Depending to what degree and to what direction you reimagine a character in is going to depend on whether or not it's a deconstruction or an analog. If you wanted to tell a story, I mean, DC did this on its own with their Elseworld stories. What if Kal-El had been raised by the Waynes, or something like that? What if, that kind of thing had happened, or something like that? That's a reimagining, right? What would happen here and there and stuff like that. And that's fine. It depends on what direction you go with it, which is what makes it either a deconstruction or just, sort of a reimagining. And there's not even anything objectively wrong with a deconstruction. But we've had far too much deconstruction of certain archetypes in our culture already. The last freaking thing we needed was a deconstruction again of the DC Trinity, But good question. Good point. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anything else. Oops. Chat keeps jumping up there. Studio Super, thank you very again for the chat there. Said, not everybody's from Gotham. They don't all need to be solemn, because if there's no fun, then they'll look like they need some rest and make the audience depressed enough to head for the bar. Yeah, and it's, somebody who disagreed with me might say, well, look, you're that's being ridiculous. You're ridiculous because in Alpha Core there was that one cop who was very selfless and gave his life even for everybody at the end. Yeah, and how much time did the story give him? Barely a nod. Even at his death, they're like, yeah, I guess he was kind of a really great guy, or he was the best of us. Okay, so what else is going on with her life? Like he meant nothing. Like he was a plot point. He was something to make something happen in the story. A couple of kind words thrown his way, and then moving on. That's so it's not, yeah, all the characters that matter, all the characters that you're spending time with are this one cookie cutter jerks being jerks to each other. It's not fun. There's a a supporter of the Ripperverse that said, well, it takes audiences time to connect with characters. If we're talking about the first 10 minutes of a film, maybe you got a leg to stand on. We're talking about a book that you got to pay $20-$50 for. You better let me connect with that character in the first few pages. That's ridiculous. Let's see. Andre Hernandez, thank you very much there. He said, how about checking out Common America? I heard good things about it. I actually have a couple. No, I don't have Common America. I'm sorry. What is it that I have? MAGA. I have my Hero MAGA or whatever. What was the My Hero Academia one that they did with Trump, and I have some of those that Tim had sent me. Common America is I think, maybe I should look into it more, but I think it's like the amalgam of Kamen Rider with sort of an American style. I don't know, maybe. I really liked oh shoot. Why I can't Usagi. The bunny. Why can't I think of the name? I really love that. But I don't remember looking at Common America. Didn't immediately grip me. I don't remember why, though, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But yeah, thanks for putting it back on my radar, reminding me. Studio 96 Films, thank you very much. Said, I'm sorry this is off topic. How did you react to? Oh yeah, the guy behind Chrono Trigger and Dragon Ball Z and whatnot. I don't know him. I've never watched Dragon Ball Z. I only know Chrono Trigger from watching Sound Engraver play it through, and I liked it. And I liked what people have told me about Dragon Ball Z, and I might get around to watching Dragon Ball Z at some point. Very sorry he died. I just don't know him. I'm not familiar with him, So very very sorry that a great storyteller apparently passed away. That's horrible. I can tell he meant a lot to a lot of people, and I can tell he's a very special, creator just from the reactions I've seen from other people. But again, I didn't grow up with anime or manga or anything. There's 2 or 3 franchises that I really like now that I got into them, but haven't really gotten into any of his yet that I know of. So, but I know he apparently was a very big deal, and I'm sure many of you guys in the chat are feeling his loss. So that's definitely sad. And yeah, no, not off topic at all. Oh, the chat jumped. Did that weird thing. Let me see. All right, there's that, and then 6. All right, Wolfblade, or Wolf X Blade. Oh, Prof. Was that? Did I get the right one? Oh, this chat is being dumb. All right, there we go. Thought I saw. Oh well, it told me for a second. It highlighted your chat as a super chat. I don't think it is, but I'll still read it anyway. Hello, Prof. What are your thoughts on the current gen of comic fans viewing Batman as an anti-hero and more than aspiration hero? I think that's crap. Batman is a great example of a hero who has been all but destroyed by this. We gotta make it edgy. We gotta make it gritty. Batman was not meant to be an anti-hero. He's not. Yes, he had his roots in the pulp. Heroes and whatnot, or the pulp characters, pulp. Adventurers and whatnot. Of course he did, but again, very quickly in their formative period, he became the character he was. He wouldn't use a gun. He wouldn't kill. That's what he became very quickly, and he stayed that way in our public consciousness for decades. And yeah, with the 80s came that push to make him a little edgier, a little edgier. Dark Knight Returns, I wish it never happened, to be quite frank. I just you know, it was meant to be an Elseworlds, but so many people took that and tried to make it mainstream. I loved Frank Miller's Year One, but Dark Knight Returns, I just can't even look at it anymore. I just don't think, you know, I think it's pretty horrible overall of what it's done to the character. You know, I love, of course, I dearly love Batman '89, but that itself pushed the limit and crossed lines that it shouldn't have. Uh, because of the time period, because of the context it was shown, I don't think it was anywhere near the problem that something like, you know, Batman v Superman is. But yeah, you can see the progression of people just not being happy enough with that. Oh, he's got to be a little bit more like this. He's got to be more like this. People want an insanely tortured, revenge-seeking Punisher, and I don't know why. You've got plenty of those characters already. That's nothing about that makes Batman special. In fact, that makes him incredibly boring. I guess because he's got the cool bat aesthetic and they just want that linked to a Punisher type character or something. I don't know. But yeah, I hate it. I hate it. So glad you asked the question there. Guy Vart, 96. What makes Eric Draven from The Crow, apart from your average anti-hero, is that he had good character qualities and wasn't just the typical jerk. You know, I have to be honest. You guys are going to hate me. It's actually weird that you brought up The Crow. Fanman was talking to me about The Crow, and he was showing me the trailer for the new one that they're putting out, and it looks just awful. Oh my gosh, it looks awful. Everything about it looks awful. I'm sure a bunch of you know, kids today will be like, oh, whatever. It looks ridiculous. It looks laughable. But at the same time, I'd never seen the original Crow, so I actually did pick it up as one of the DVD or Blu-rays I picked up on sale. So I picked it up. I'm going to watch it. Fanman was telling me about the comic and how it was so beautiful and this and that. I remember seeing the trailers for The Crow. I remember when The Crow came out, and I remember really liking, even though I never saw it back in the day, I remember really liking the aesthetic because it was such a product of the 90s. You know, it was such a product of that goth era. I mean, if you watch it, just watch the trailer of the original Crow, that atmosphere is just built into the fabric of that, you know, of the even the trailer, but you can tell of the film itself. I can't speak to the film or even of the character, not having seen it. But then you look at that garbage trailer they made with the Skarsgård guy or whatever, and it's just lacking every bit of that. It looks no different than any other film. Like it could be a you know, a spy thriller or something that came out today. Like it's missing all of that. And I think that's because today's culture has lost those distinctive marks, you know. I've talked about this before, but culture today just doesn't there's nothing distinctive about the 20s. You know, other than some things that happened, you know, sure, the pandemic and some things like that, you know, are going to mark the 20s, but we're not going to have anything. I mean, like the teens, we don't have anything distinctively culture related about the teens, you know, that we did say the 90s or the 80s. You know, I think the aughts are the last decade where we had any semblance of that, and even in the aughts it was kind of that kind of culture was dying off, you know. And so I think to try and do something like The Crow, something that's so dependent on atmosphere and culture, to redo that today is absurd, and as it shows in that trailer. But that's just me. But I appreciate your endorsement of the character, because like I said, I'm excited about reading it. I mean, watching it. I don't know if I'll read the comic. I'll watch the film first. All right, seeing if I've missed anything here. See in the chat here, Malwinus Cyrano. The original Crow is a product of its time. The style, the soundtrack, Brandon Lee, you can't reproduce that nowadays. I agree. Again, not even having seen the movie, I would 100% agree with that. Absolutely. Studio Super, thank you very much. You said you mentioned in your previous stream about archetypes. The Frontiersman, I talk about archetypes a lot, obviously. Scholarship. The Frontiersman is one that admittedly is hard for me to grasp a bit. Do you have any scenarios on hand that can better illustrate the function? Yeah, I mean, the Frontiersman, basically, you need to know about the Frontiersman, and that he's about straddling boundaries. What I mean by that is that a good example of the frontiersman I teach in my class, for example, is I look at Hawkeye from The Last of the Mohicans, how he's a white man, and in the book he calls himself a man without a cross, a man without a cross, and a lot of people get excited about that. Ooh, he's a man without religion. No, he's not saying that. He's saying he's a man without any other bloodlines. He's not like half Indian, half, colonist. No, he's all white, yet he's raised by the Delaware Indians. So he's got those two worlds within him. And a lot of heroes come from two worlds. That's fine. But the thing about the frontiersman is that both of the boundaries around those two worlds are totally preserved, so that he's got 1 foot in one and 1 foot in the other. So in The Last Mohicans, for example, if you read the book, he'll say, "Oh, I can track really well here because of my Delaware upbringing, or I can do this because of my white English blood, or whatever." And the frontiersman has to have 1 foot in each of those boundaries, because the frontiersman needs to inhabit an in-between space to make it safe. So the frontiersman stories are take place where there's been some sort of shakeup, or something's happened in the story universe where there's this new territory that's unsafe, and the frontiersman comes in to make it safe. So you have stories about Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, even though they're real people, but you got fictionalized stories of them, Hawkeye and whatnot, on the actual literal American frontier in the early American times. That goes all the way to the cowboys, in the Wild West. The Regulators, and whatnot. A lot of great Wild West stories about people, because that's a lawless area, right? The nation was expanding, and civilization really hadn't, for good or for bad, sometimes both, hadn't really tapped into everything yet. So you had this sort of lawless land where a cowboy, or some kind of frontiersman hero, gunslinger or whatever, had to have kind of 1 foot solidly rooted in, let's say, the frontier life, the plantation life or whatever, really knowing the land or something like that, and then 1 foot, rooted in civilization of some way. That's why I love the Lone Ranger film, because it really embodied that well. Lone Ranger stories, even classic Clayton Moore Lone Ranger stories, they're frontiersmen. Like I said, I think you could look at the Young Guns movies, to a certain degree. Certainly Tombstone. My goodness, if you haven't watched Tombstone, you'll put some hair on your chest. That's an amazing frontiersman movie. So you got Wild West, then certainly into space, right? Star Trek, when it first came out, was a frontiersman story. Going into the final frontier, space. Green Lantern stories, when done well, are frontiersman stories. Where you have a character embodying these two, 1 foot in each boundary, or in each world, and using the gifts from each one to help him in the other. In making that in-between space safe for people. Hopefully that's the dime store version of the frontiersman. Hopefully that works for you. But thanks for the question. I appreciate that. Nathaniel Zalozball, you say, I asked a pretty big question that had to be separated in the chat. It should begin under Alec Purdue's super chat. Okay, let me go back and see if I can find this for you. Hopefully I can find it for you. Oh, and I see I also missed a super chat or two there. Divinital Cayenne, I'll get back to you there in a second. And Eldritch fan, sorry, the chat jumps. And don't want to miss you guys there. Alec Purdue's super chat. I'm looking for you, my friend. Yeah, I got the R. Rodriguez. Okay, here's Alec Purdue's. All right, here you are, Nathaniel. Let's see. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Kenshin's author. Okay, they created an incredible piece of art. Unfortunately, he was found in possession of very bad material on his computer. Okay, I think I know where you're going there with that. Thing is, it was never glorified in his work. Does this taint his art, even if it doesn't appear in his work at all? That's a really great scenario to bring up, because some people were talking about this the other day. It came up with a comic book writer. It was on Comicsgate Kings, and Art T. Bear and Eighth Man Skyver, and they were all talking about Gerard Jones, I think his name is. And he was a comic book writer for DC, did a lot of stuff. I thought he did some really good stories, but then he was also found with some of that stuff on his computer, right? And was put in prison for it. I think he's out now. So and this is such a difficult topic because they sorry, I'm just trying to get that off there. That's disgusting, right? And you don't want to do anything that would even be remotely seen as promoting that horrid thing, right? That being a child pornography, basically. Let's just say that, to whatever extent somebody was involved in that, whether they just had some on their computer, whether they were involved in it or whatever. Terrible. That's just, it's despicable in every way. You have some people though who want to treat a person who might be involved in that to whatever degree, whether they just own it, whether they're actually involved in it or whatever, they see that as license to dehumanize the person. Now, as a Christian, I don't believe I can do that. It's utterly deplorable. The person deserves their comeuppance for that, 100%. We need to do everything we can to get that out. But this idea that you should be able to steal someone's humanity, like no sin is so terrible, and that's a hard thing to. And some people can't get their heads around this. But if you're a Christian of any kind of flavor, then you have to understand and believe that no sin will steal your humanity. That anything can be redeemed, or you can be redeemed from anything, right? So for Gerard Jones, I still have some of the comic books that he wrote, and as you said with these other creators you're talking about, there's not even remotely anything linked to this stuff that was on his computer. And these stories are decent, Batman, Riddler stories or whatever. In fact, he wrote one book that I had used a lot in my scholarship on the history of comic book superheroes, where he'd done sort of a historian thing. I'm not going to, list him as one of my favorite authors. I'm not going to go promote his work. I'm not going to, I don't even know. I'm sure he'd never put out anything anymore, because the what's attached to his name now. But I'm also not going to pretend that he should just be dismembered and dehumanized in every way either. If some of the stories that came before were actually good and didn't have anything like that in it, I'll still hold on to those stories. Again, I'm not promoting him, and I'm certainly not promoting anything what they've done, but it's a touchy subject, in today's culture. You can see me, I'm just kind of very lightly stepping around it myself here as I'm speaking, because some people, even people who would supposedly be against cancel culture, there are some people who would want to cancel me for even saying that much. How dare you? No, they do lose their humanity and they should be, forever tortured to death or whatever, Eldritch fan, super chat that I missed there, said, how can evil scum have made good art in the past? I mean, art happens. Art is part of the human experience, just as much as deplorable, horrid, sinful acts are part of the human experience. And it's up to the individual what they want to give vent to give creation to, and sometimes they do both. Sometimes they do art, sometimes they do horrible, deplorable behaviors, and sometimes they do it in different kinds of orders or whatever. The key is you never want to be in support of these horrible behaviors in any kind of degree, and I think it's a case-by-case basis. Like I said, I would never hang a painting by Hitler. I don't care how pretty it was, I would never hang it. Some stories that I bought and enjoyed and encountered before ever knowing that Gerard Jones was into this, I'm not going to throw those out because I like them, I'm certainly not going to be reviewing them or promoting them on my channel, but I'm not going to throw them out. I enjoyed them. I remember growing up with some of those stories, and there's nothing to do with that subject matter in those stories, So, people have different opinions on that. Divinitel Cayenne did miss your super chat there for a second. It's okay. I haven't watched The Crow either. Well, you can watch it too, and you can tell us what you think as while I watch it. I'm excited to watch it because I hear it's very much sort of a post-Batman 89 movie, and I like that kind of thing because I like the aesthetic of Tim Burton's films. And I know it's not a Tim Burton film, but it definitely came after that. And I'm excited to see it. I think one of the reasons why I might not have seen it back in the day. What year did The Crow come out? Should be able to. I'm gonna be able to read it here. My old man eyes in this low light. But I'm thinking it came out. I would be late teens, maybe in the 90s. So I might have felt like it was a little too emo for me to get into at that moment or whatever. I don't know. Don't know why I didn't watch it, but I'd like to watch it, and I'm going to. So thank you, Daniel Lisball, for that question. Making sure I don't miss anything else. You guys hold me accountable if I miss any of these super chats there, because I don't want to. You guys gave them, and I don't want to miss them. Matthew Flynn, Gladiator of Chaon. I said it right. Thank you for the super chat. Said, Lord Commander Dante is an aspirational hero. Well, as close as you can get for 40K. He's tired of fighting and just wants to die in a blaze of glory defending innocent civilians, but refuses suicide. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know the character, but interesting that he's named Dante. I mean, that would I would assume that speaks to some sort of morality in his character. I mean, his name is Dante, the person who wrote the Inferno and the comedy and so forth. Let's see. Studio Super, thank you very much there, said, so the frontiersman in a story can come from one world with certain values and comes into a new world that has different values, and those values can clash. The frontiersman has those values coexist. Yeah, they can clash. I mean, think about Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. He's an Earth. He's from Earth. He's a human, and he's got that world. 1 foot is in that world, and then 1 foot is he's also this intergalactic police officer. You know, at the end of the film Green Lantern First Flight, I really like that film. Sometimes I'll show my students that as an example of the frontiersman. And at the end, he leads the whole corps in the Green Lantern, oath or whatever. And then he flies away, and they say, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I got to check in at my other job," because he's got to go back to Earth and show up for work. So he's got those 1 foot in each world. And again, a lot of heroes work from two different worlds. I mean, on one hand, you could say, well, doesn't Spider-Man, have 1 foot in each world like that? Yeah, to an extent of, being Peter Parker and being, Spider-Man. But what is far more prevalent in a character like Spider-Man is blurring boundaries, which is the trickster's, domain. So yeah, you're on the right track there. I did a whole video on the frontiersman. If you do a search for Professor Geek Frontiersman, you'll see a video that maybe goes into a little bit more detail for you. Another super chat from you just elaborating. You said, my thing is trying to think of the frontiersman is that I sometimes question if I'm thinking of a frontiersman or a trickster. Then again, I don't watch Westerns a lot. I do watch Star Trek, the OG series. Yeah, well, a trickster is trying to do away with the boundaries. A trickster is trying to say, well, where does that boundary really even exist? You watch Spider-Man and you wonder, well, I mean, is he a boy or is he a man? I mean, yeah, he's like 15, 16, but he's got the responsibility of a man on his shoulders. You see Spider-Man move and you're like, is he a human or a spider? There's not one definitive foot in either boundary which are definitively defined and separated. A trickster's going to blur that boundary so you don't really know where one begins and when the other starts, Hopefully that helps. All right. I think I'm down to the end there, and which is good because it's about an hour limit. If I missed anybody, super chat wise, please shout it out there, and I'll try to get to you. You guys have been rolling in with it. I guess maybe the content was just such that we talked about this a lot, but man, the hour just shot away in a heartbeat. So sorry I didn't get a chance to go through more individual chats, but excuse me. But really fun hanging out with you guys. Excuse me. I will show a couple of things, some reviews and whatnot coming to the channel. I mentioned this. I picked up Billy Tucci's She Omnibus. This is one sweet book. I was showing Sound Engraver the other day, and she was liking the aesthetic of it too and everything. It's Omnibus Volume 1 of all of the She storylines. So I'm very excited. I've started reading it already, and that's going to be coming up on my literary analysis series of comics. Like I said, I've got Ghost of Matacumbe Key, but I'm waiting on to get the Chinu and Alien Alamo to read those first. Do those first. If I had time, I was going to show you my Cyberfrog and Salamandroid statues that I'd ordered, which are pretty sweet. I might just do that as a separate video, maybe record later this weekend, because I want to talk about the importance of statues or action figures and such like that as touchstones for people who like these characters or want to draw inspiration from them and whatnot. So I'll do that at some point. But yeah, I got a lot of good stuff to come there. Final super chat there from Divinital Kayan. Thank you so much. Said hour shot by and I got good work done with it. Thanks, bro. Well, thank you. Appreciate the support. Appreciate all of you guys who hung out with us tonight. Really great topics. Really great, interesting conversation. Interesting points. Coming about. And like I said, I'll just leave you guys with this. Everything I'm talking about tonight in terms of these are the decisions that every consumer has to make for themselves. Again, I said that we're consumer, but every person who's going to, partake of art has to make for themselves. But I think you have to realize that art is going to have an effect on you. Don't be an idiot and go, no, it doesn't affect me. I just watch what I like or read what you like or whatever. That's just simply not true. It's objectively false. Art has an effect on you, to a degree or another. I'm not saying it's going to, mind control you. But it has an effect on you, and it has an effect on culture. And as I say on my channel, I think we need to consume that story responsibly. So that's where I'll leave it tonight. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It was a lot of fun. We'll come back again next week, and I'll have some content, some new content, and some cutouts from this stream dropping in. But until next week, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.